Dave Ramsey has one of the largest followings out there. And while I think that his advice can be good for people with lower income, higher debt, bad spending habits, I don't think that his advice is great for everybody. The first one is that your credit doesn't matter. Dave cites that your credit score, your credit, etc. just really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this is really not true. I remember when I first got out of college and I tried to get an apartment and I didn't really have a built up credit score. I really didn't have an option of getting this apartment. I ended up having to have a co-signer like my parents who had good credit be put onto basically that rental agreement just to make it viable for me to get it. Fast forward, I just recently bought a house and I was shown the difference in what the rates were based on my credit score. So luckily I had a high credit score. I got the best rate, which is still a terrible rate because of current interest rate environments. But there are a lot of times where you might not get approved for apartment. All the loans that you get, you might get higher rates. I've had some clients who come in to work with me who have low 600 credit scores and their car loan's 11% when another person with a good credit score is getting 4 or 5%. So while I don't think your credit score is the number one thing to focus on, and so many people, all they do is how do I maximize my credit? Obviously it's not the most important thing, but it is important to make sure that you are building your credit, ensuring it's in a good position so you can pay less in interest over your lifetime. The second one is that you need to pay off all debt before investing. So Dave basically says you should pay off every single piece of debt you have minus a mortgage before you start investing. And I just don't think that this is good advice. Why? Because for the average person who has a 3% car loan, they have a 4% student loan, they really don't need to be paying off all of that debt before investing, especially with your 401k. Let's say you make $200,000, you have a 100% match of 6% in your 401k, you'd be missing out on a $12,000 match per year by ignoring it to go pay off low interest debt. So what do I think is the better advice? The better advice is from day one, use your 401k match and then pay off high interest debt at the same period of time. So if you have any debt, for me, that's 8, 10% and above, I'm gonna be attacking that while doing my 401k. Once that debt is paid off, then I would start investing more. If you have a 3% car loan, 3% student loans, I don't think that you need to be paying that off before you go invest anything, especially knowing how powerful compound interest is and how powerful it is to have money in the market for a long period of time. Obviously, this is just the most optimal route. You need to basically intertwine how you feel about debt, the risk score that you have, how you would invest in your money to make the best decision for you. But at the end of the day, I don't think all people should pay off all debt minus a home before investing. Most times that's just gonna set you back in the long run. The third one is that mutual funds are better than ETFs. So Dave loves talking about mutual funds and how he gets these 12% annual returns with growth funds, which I'm not even gonna get into because I definitely don't believe. But at the end of the day, mutual funds and ETFs are very similar. The difference is that ETFs change price throughout the day. You can buy them whenever you want throughout the day. And they also have a tax wrapper around it that helps hold gains inside. There are a lot of people who have had the situation where their mutual funds are down, but because it spit out gains, they actually owe taxes on it. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure that the way that you're investing is tax efficient. You don't want to be paying tons of taxes on a yearly basis without selling. So to me, ETFs are better because of the tax wrapper that they have around them. Also, in most situations, ETFs do come with lower fees than mutual funds. Dave talks about the advantage of, well, it leads to better behavior that you can't be buying and selling mutual funds throughout the day. And I just really don't think that's an issue. That's something that people should worry about. Now, number 4 is that in Dave's financial plans, they use a very, very high growth rate, something close to 12%. And it's because he says the S&P 500 averages 12% a year. And at the end of the day, the S&P 500 doesn't average 12% a year. 12% is the simple average return when what we want to look at is the compound annual growth rate, which is actually closer to 10%. It doesn't sound like a huge difference, but at the end of the day, a 2% difference on your growth could be the difference of millions of dollars at your portfolio at the end of the day. As a financial planner, the way that I look at this is you don't want to expect higher than average growth rates. Why? Because it's going to be really hard to catch up based on that. You would much rather look at lower average rates and get further ahead than say, I'm going to expect the best case that this market could have and hope that works out for me. And if not, I'm kind of screwed. I won't have enough money in the long run. Number 5 is that you can safely take out 8% or more from your portfolio value a year. There was a video this year that absolutely blew up of Dave Ramsey telling this guy, hey, you can take out 8% a year. If you have $1 million, the market grows at 12% and you take out 8%, that's never really going to dip down. But research shows that the average somebody should do and what's been tested is closer to a 4% rate. So if you're planning on, hey, I have $1 million and I'm going to take out 8% and you take out 80, and now you're down to $920,000 and the market drops 30% in that year, which is very normal if you're in an entire S&P 500, which is what he talks about, that portfolio is now going to be under $600,000 for the next year. Guess what? You want to take out 8% again? Great, you took out 8%. Now you actually have less money than before. And even if it grows at 20%, you're still in a way worse spot than you were. You do not want to plan on taking out 8% of your portfolio. That is not tried and true and tested. And then the last one is that you should have no debt. Dave argues that you should pay cash for a car, that you should never take on any debt other than a mortgage. And at the end of the day, I think this advice is a little archaic. Is it good for people who are in a lot of debt? Absolutely. Is it good for people who have a lot of income and are building assets? No. Dave argues that you shouldn't even have debt on rental properties. I don't know about you, but I really don't know what way that you're going to be able to attain a rental property without taking on a mortgage. The reason why rental properties are great investments is because the leverage you have, right? If you have a $500,000 property, you put $100,000 down and that property grows by 5%, then on that $100,000, you just got a $25,000 growth plus the cash flow that is coming from the property. Other times that it might make sense to take on debt is for student loans, right? If you're gonna go be a doctor, a lawyer, something that's gonna have a good return on investment, student loans can make sense. If you need to buy a car, buying a car is something that you might have to do and you might have to get a loan on that, and that's okay. You might be buying a business, you might be expanding your business, you might have to get a property for your business to operate inside of. Those are all good times to leverage debt. So yes, avoid bad debt and use good debt when you can. And the lower the interest rate, the more advantageous that can be. Again, while I think Dave has done a lot of good for the world of personal finance, while I think he's helped a lot of people who are kind of in that tough early on stage, I don't think his advice is best for people who are further along and make good incomes. His investing advice isn't good. His retirement advice isn't good. His advice on paying off debt and building momentum, that's the one sole thing that I think he does really, really well. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and go subscribe to my channel for more personal finance content. And as always, please leave your thoughts in the comments below and I promise to get back to every single one of them. We'll see you back next week.